Okay.
Okay, my name is Joe Skrzyjewski, and the purpose of this short 8-minute film is to basically walk you through my story, which revolves around the internet search. Basically, a few months ago, I was approached by my company, and they said, we're going to slow down here in the desert for the summer. If you'd like to look around at other positions, other opportunities, we invite you to do so. And I took it upon myself to pretty much embrace that challenge and to sort of step outside the box, offer up my services to different industries. My background is in finance, but I've worked in hospitality, banking, and things of that nature. And again, basically my search fully revolved around searching on the internet. It's basically, for me, was a matter of quantity. What I know is what I'm capable of is dedicating an hour a day to sending out as many resumes as possible to as many jobs as possible, with the idea that one or two of those will eventually pan out. And if I send out 60 a day, and basically I'll walk you through the way I did that, the idea would be that I would get a couple hits on that and drum up interest in my, my talents and my responsibilities. What I did was I sent out 60 resumes a day. It ended up being 1,500 total over my job search. My job search involved 6 weeks of looking for jobs. I took interviews just for practice. I highly recommend that. If you're like me, you've probably had a job for a couple of years, or you might have been out of a job for 6 months, 9 months, a couple of years. To get back into that idea of practice interviewing, meeting with people, because nowadays you'll have one-on-one interviews, two-on-one interviews, big group interviews where you're there with 10 other people. Pretty much everything under the gamut. There might be a couple steps to getting a job, and you want to be ready for everything. You need to embrace the challenge that these companies now have all the cards in their hands. They're basically looking for the best qualified individual amongst a whole ton of people. So I took these job interviews just to get good, and it really, really helped me in the end. I was offered 3 serious positions. I actually was lucky enough to be offered 2 jobs at the same time. I took one, and in the end I had to turn down one to take another great opportunity, which I'm starting now. And basically, on the website, on the blog here, which you're going to be able to look at, is a list of all the websites that we've developed for you to make it as easy as possible for you to go and find those. CareerBuilder.com is the site that I used that personally was, which I felt was the most beneficial. Reason being is, once you go on there and you put up your resume and your cover letter, your basics, you put that up there, and CareerBuilder allows you to do this thing called a quick apply, whereby you can apply to 10, 15, 20 jobs all at once. It pretty much dumbs down the approach that you have to go and spend a bunch of time applying to each job individually. And for me, I like feeling that sense of accomplishment at the end of that hour, at the end of that day, that I put a good day's work in, that I put the effort forth, to feel a sort of sense of accomplishment. And then if you get the responses from these companies, some of the jobs you might not be interested in, but interview anyway, work for practice, develop a good sense of self-esteem that you're wanted and that you're desired in this job market. So a list of all those websites will be on the site there for you to check out. Once you actually get to the interviews and once you actually go through this process, you're going to have different substantial issues that come up. Things like if you have a felony, maybe a DUI, things on your record. Always answer the questions directly. Speak about the felony. If it asks you if you had a felony in the last 5 years and you had it, 7 to 10 years ago, it's asking you to answer the question directly. Have you had a felony in the last 7 years or 10 years? If it was more than that, don't go into it. But if they ask you about the felony and it just happened recently, it was the best thing that happened to me. Turn it to a positive. How can you, make that show the differences in your life today versus then? Your credit score might come up. If you know what your credit score is, be honest with them. I don't think that will necessarily disqualify you from many jobs. Be honest with them. Most people in the world today have had problems with their credit scores over time. That's just a reality of the world. Especially with the housing markets and things of that nature. A lot of us are going to have credit issues. Your driving record, if you're looking to be a driver of any type to get a CDL or anything like that, they might ask you about your driving record. Medical questions, if you have any things that you've gone through in the past with your health. A really important thing that's definitely going to come up is a pay negotiation. They know what they're going to pay you. Don't go in there being demanding. If it says salary starting at $40,000 a year and you are making 80 and you want 60, but they're willing to pay 40, don't tell them that I need 60. They have this number pegged. That's what they're going to pay you. So go in there and be open-minded. Work your way, get your foot in the door. Start off at 40. Start off at something that's manageable. And again, work towards your ultimate goal. Take reference lists with you. Most of these companies, they're going to ask you for 2 personal references and 2 professional references. Always have a couple generic ones with you. Let the people know you're going to use them as references. The last thing you want to do is have them get a call from this employer and not recognize the name right away or not be prepared. Have 2 or 3 quality people that know they're going to be called to share good references about you. Always have a list of residences and salary histories because they'll ask you for these. Have a list of your past employers. Have it all ready so when you fill out that application, you're not sitting there, calling people and not being prepared. You always want to make sure you have that ready. Background checks are being done nowadays, which typically also involves a personality test. Anywhere from 100 to 250 questions. It might take you anywhere from 10 to 45 minutes where they'll ask you different questions in different ways. And it all offered 5 different choices. Not at all likely, somewhat likely, indifferent, somewhat likely, very likely. Different ways to answer the questions. Always be honest. Answer the questions directly. Realize that these computer programs are designed to catch you in lies. They want you to be honest. If you're going for a management position and they're asking you personality questions about management, how do you stand out in a management capacity? Answer it directly. Interview tips, always smile. I can't stress that enough. Many of the jobs, many of the interviews I've went on, they've shared stories where people had all the qualifications in the world and really came off well, but they didn't smile, and that made a major, major impact in their decision as to whether or not they want to hire that person. Always wear appropriate clothes. I know I wore a suit to every single interview I went on, and some of those interviews I was dressed better than the person interviewing me. And they noticed that, they realized that, they appreciated that. And that really, really looks good. First impressions you're only able to make one time. So look your best when you're going to these interviews. Shut off your cell phone. Don't just put it on vibrate, because if it's on vibrate, you know it's going off. Always have your phone shut off. You want to concentrate for that hour or however long that interview is. You want to be focused on that. Some other things are going to be on the website as well to look at different ideas, different search techniques, employer lists, industry conventions, employment agencies, temp agencies, and executive recruiters. Some of these things have worked for some people. Some people like to use the temp agencies. We have a employment center out in India over here where they have lists of all the temp agencies in the area. They have different classes that they offer to help you with your internet search. It's like typically a half-hour class, very, very basic, what keystrokes to touch, how to cut and paste your resume, how to send your resume and your cover letter generically out as an attachment, different basic methods that are very, very helpful that are, for some of us that haven't, went the internet route, some of us have just done, walk into the company and hand them a resume. Nowadays, a lot of these things are done basically just through the internet. Always be prepared to do that. Job clubs, state services, those are other different ways to do it. And lastly, let me sort of wrap up with some things here that basically is very, very important. After going on the interview, always send out a thank you note. Little brief thank you note, 2 sentences max. My name is Joe Skrzyjewski. Thank you for your interview. Thank you for allowing me to interview with you today. I really appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to hearing back from you. Sincerely, Joe Skrzyjewski. And lastly, don't stalk the employer. They have 1 million other people to interview. They have a time frame by which they're going to hire somebody. Don't stalk them. Respect that they're looking for a person and that you might be that person, and if you are, they'll call you back. So thank you very much for your attention, and good luck with your jobs.